One of the really cool things about these books is just kind of how God has allowed me to use stories and accounts from the Bible to kind of go along the storylines and the characters of what they're facing in these books and kind of bring those stories to life in a real and relevant way in our world today. And so, if you've read the first book, you know that Heart of God follows the story of King David in the Bible. And it kind of just ends up coinciding with the main character's storyline, Selah Cross. And you kind of see her being wrongfully accused of murder. She's been wrongfully accused of stealing an artifact from the museum. And so she's on the run and she's never had to experience this kind of life. But I kind of just wove it together with David's story from the Bible, and he was on the run from King Saul and from his son and from various people in his life throughout his lifetime. So it's just really cool to kind of see how those pieces come together in the end when I'm writing these books. And I just love how much God works through them and works through the characters and the storylines. I know it always impacts my life when I'm reading through them and editing them and writing them in general. And it's just, like I've said, it's been such a blessing to have God write these stories through me, and I'm just so blessed. And writing for this second book, it was really cool. I've always loved the story of the alabaster jar in the Bible. And when I started doing this book, I actually discovered that the story of the woman pouring out her alabaster jar at Jesus' feet was in all four Gospels. So that was cool to start with, but there are a lot of stories that kind of end up in all four Gospels in the New Testament. But what was different about this one is the story I had picked was actually different. The one in Luke 7 is actually a different account than the ones in the other three Gospels. And I've posted several blogs or different videos kind of explaining that. But it was just really neat to see how God worked through this one. I've struggled a lot personally with some things over the last few years, and just my walk with God. Sometimes it's not always like hardcore on, and just experiencing different things. I struggle with trying to just let my faith rest in Him and trust Him to do what He's going to do with my life and His will for my life. And this book, the second book, Alabaster Jar, just really focuses on the main male character's faith journey. Dylan Kincaid has to kind of find out, is he going to let his faith in God be his own, or is it always going to be dependent on his relationship with Selah? And he kind of he's forced to find out where his heart with God lies personally. And Selah goes missing at one point, and so he really has to like focus on that and figure that out. And it really pushed me in my own faith journey as well, writing this, because I have gone through periods in my life where my faith has been dependent on my relationship with other people. And when that relationship failed and completely fell apart, my faith in God fell apart. And I've definitely gone through some rocky times where like I said, it fell apart, and it was just really hard. It's not that I didn't know God existed or didn't believe that He existed and was real, but my faith definitely went through that point where it wasn't fully dependent on Him, and I had to kind of relearn how to trust in God and just believe in Him for who He is in my life, and not dependent on what I think about God or what other people have influenced me to think about God, or even just how other people have influenced me to trust or believe. Like, people fail us all the time, and it's so hard sometimes to disconnect that relationship with people in the world that we interact with on a regular basis with our relationship with God. Like, it's so hard to remember that He is God and He is above everything. He created everything. He's overcome all darkness and death in this world. And so this book was really personal to me. A lot of my books end up being really personal, whether the characters or the storylines or just different things I'm going through at the time also in my life. So it's just been really cool. I keep saying this, but I am truly blessed to be used by God in this way, and I just love seeing how these stories come to life. And truly, pretty much since my second book of my fairy tale series, it's kind of really been God writing these stories and these characters, and He's just using me in such a way to share his love with the world and share his story, and I am just blessed and humbled to be used like this. I am definitely not like this ultra perfect Christian and follower of God, and I make plenty of mistakes on my own, but the fact that he still uses me even when I'm not trusting him or not following him the way I should be, it's just incredibly humbling, and I just am so blessed to be used by him in these ways. My hope in writing these books is always that people will just see his story through this and see his love and feel his love through the pages of these books. And it's just such a critical part of life, and finding your identity in him, and just remembering and being reminded that we are all God's masterpiece. We've all been carefully handcrafted by him, and he has such a beautiful purpose for our stories and our lives. So again, incredibly blessed and humbled, and I just always pray that these books reach people where they're at, and that they can see hope and light through these books and stories, and just feel God's love and his presence in their lives, and feel and experience that transformation and stuff. So I just really hope you guys read these books and enjoy them. Everyone who's read them loves them, so just try it, you'll like it. And I just hope that you guys will be touched by God in a personal way.
Giving this butterfly the wings to fly.